Welcome everyone here. That being said, we will open the floor up for public comment. Just state your name and address for the record. No? No comments? Okay. We have a young intern that I believe will be interning in the sheriff's office.
Yes.
Not to embarrass you, but would you stand up and tell us your name and what you're doing?
I'm Gia Keldrone, and I go to John Carroll, and I'm interning at the Sheriff's Department because I want to go to law school after I graduate, and I just want to get a nice broad perspective of the law and
John Carroll, great school,
Yes.
in the great nation of Cleveland.
Yep.
Not to be misconstrued with the terrible Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Commissioner.
Why do you? Hey, I went to Decade, so you better be nice. Yes.
I also want to say that just part of the intern program that we're doing with the ARP funding, the
yeah.
departments, give them that opportunity to, one, to help the counties catch up on some of the things that we're behind, but also to give our students an experience that they can use further on, and hopefully like county government and would want to come back to it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Thank you for coming and best of luck.
Welcome. It's good to have
Yes.
another German in the room with me, you know, it's,
Oh, my God.
Okay.
Kenny,
Never
what
end.
do you think, Tom?
Kenny.
Huh?
what are we gonna do?
Take them back.
Hold on.
Another germ.
Hey, he's got to know he's ours, you know? He's ours.
I know. Okay, so I'm expecting someone to say something. No? All right. With that being said, then we will move into the business portion of our meeting. With that, I need a motion to approve previous minutes of board meeting number 24 and approve of bills for payment.
So moved.
Second,
Roll call.
Commissioner Ditzler,
yes.
Commissioner Remedial Rigetti,
Yes.
Commissioner Trafficani.
Yes, moving on, journal entry.
Motion to approve journal entry number 1.
Second,
Roll call.
Commissioner Ditzler,
yes.
Commissioner Remedial Rigetti,
Yes.
Commissioner Trafficani.
Yes. Oh, and Audrey, I forgot to officially recognize you as filling in as our clerk today.
Yes, I am.
If you don't know about Audrey,
Clerk.
she's a clerk, she's an administrator, she's a psychologist, she's a budget analyst, she's everything.
Preacher.
she's a preacher. So, you know, we got the best over here. And thank you, Audrey, for doing all you do,
Thank you.
and
I
Karen
think-
as
I
well.
think she'd acknowledge being a preacher first and foremost.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Thank God,
The
huh?
faith, the
Yes.
faith
You
comes.
need that shield of the Lord working around this group, right? All
I
right.
won't comment on that.
Okay, so we got through that. We need agreements, letters A through E. Facilities.
I'm
Who's
going to
gonna-
be Jim today.
Oh, very good,
Commissioners,
Karen.
good morning.
All right.
This is an agreement with Youngstown Fire and Safety for annual inspection of fire extinguishers at various county buildings in the amount of $3,550, and it is general fund.
Okay, thank you. JJC, I see Jen.
Good morning. This is an agreement with Kamara Plumbing to redo some plumbing in detention in the showers. It's general fund in the amount of $2,975.
Okay, thank you. OMB grants.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, Anna.
This is a memorandum of understanding with the Coalition on Homelessness and Housing in Ohio for implementation of the Housing Management Information Systems data migration in the amount of $5,843.75 per month, with a one-time cost of $19,527,000 for a total of $48,745.75 with annual renewal options, non-general.
Okay, thank you, Anna.
Thanks.
Lou Vega, recycling.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is our MOU with the Sheriff's Department, the Community Service Program. They provide our labor for special events, litter collection, bulk recycling events, and drop-off site maintenance, amongst other things. They effectively serve as a division of labor for the district.
Okay, thanks, Lou. And sanitary, Mr. Genetti.
Morning, Commissioners. Letter E is an agreement with Lindy Paving. This was for an emergency sewer repair at 5485 South Avenue. Yes, an estimated amount of $8,000. This is in the section of South Avenue that's being widened between Matthews and Lake Park. There was a sewer line that was cut by the gas company, so we will be seeking reimbursement from them after we collect an invoice from the contractor.
Thank you. Motion to approve agreements, letters A through E.
Motion to approve number 2, agreements A through E.
So moved. Second.
Roll call?
Commissioner Ditzler,
Yes.
Commissioner Maroon, Agati,
Yes.
Commissioner Trafficani.
Yes.
They catch me every time.
Okay. Change orders, A and B, and Pat, it's all yours.
Commissioners. Letter A is change order number 2 with In Situ Form Technologies. This is for the Poland sanitary sewer interceptor rehab by relining chimney seals in manholes. This is improvement number 519 in the amount of $101,223. These are non-general funds. And letter B is change order number 1, extra work order number 1 with University Electric for the under wastewater treatment plant dewatering centrifuge control panel. This is improvement project number 517. And this is for installation of a new motor base stand, a new junction box in the total amount of $12,408, also non-general funds.
Okay, thank you, Pat. Motion to approve change orders?
Motion to approve number 3, change orders A and B.
Second.
Roll call?
Commissioner Ditzler,
Yes.
Commissioner Remedy
Yes.
Agati,
Yes.
Commissioner Trafficani.
Yes. Moving on, road closings, 4A, Mr. Genetti.
Should just stay.
Just stay standing.
We're going to close Kirk Road near Turner Road intersection at the Turnpike Bridge,
Tired of this.
just so we can inconvenience Commissioner Ditzler a little bit more. Beginning Tuesday, July 6th through Friday, July 16th. And this is to hang structural steel on the bridge.
Oh, thank you.
I don't know what this is.
Okay, motion to approve road closings, 4A.
Motion to approve number 4, road closings A.
Second.
Second.
He's,
Commissioner Ditzler,
Yes.
Commissioner Remedy Agati,
Yes.
Commissioner Trafficani.
Yes.
Thank you.
Resolutions, number 1 additions.
Motion to approve number 1, resolutions additions.
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Ditzler,
Yes.
Commissioner Remedy Agati,
Yes.
Commissioner Trafficani.
Yes. And closing, we have resolutions A through C. And Audrey.
Commissioners, item A is a resolution approving a public hearing for sales tax for the repair and maintenance of roads and other infrastructure in Mahoning County. And I'll let Pat kind of speak a little bit on that.
Sure. Commissioners, several years ago, the Mahoning County Township Association approached me at looking at a different way to try to attack our infrastructure problem on our roads. I think probably the biggest complaint all the townships receive, including myself, is the condition of the roads that we have all inherited. And we've been doing everything we can with limited budget, stagnant budget for several decades. And in talking, we felt a 0.25% sales tax, if passed, could enable us to get every road in the county that has not been touched done. So in working with the Township Association, I put together a 5-year plan that covers both county roads, township roads, and infrastructure that we have within the cities and villages. And we feel pretty confident we can get all of those roads done within that 5-year period. Again, if this passes. So we met several times as association, and in my short tenure, I've never seen the townships come together like they did in these meetings. We met, Ken, 5, 6, 7 times as an ad hoc committee, then 4 or 5 times as the entire MCTA. And every meeting, all 14 townships were represented, which was great to see all the townships come together with the county. And hopefully we can get this moving and get some work done in the county.
Pat, would you like anyone else on the commission here to speak for the Township Association? Floor's yours. Mr. Ken Carano.
I am so pleased to be here, really in representing my colleagues from each of the 14 townships. You know, as people who run the county, that one of the biggest problems we have and the people's complaints are our roads. The fact of the matter is each of us in the township have county roads and each of us have our own roads that we have to take care of. We wanted some information, so we went to the ad hoc committee and we talked to the engineer. We learned things that I think the average person doesn't understand. the funding situation that that goes to the engineer. We all have this misconception as to how much money comes to our engineer each year to do our roads. And for people who don't understand, I've been a trustee for a long time. Initially, a mile road cost us about $12,000 to pave. Now it costs you $112,000. And the fact of the matter is that that money has not, even though it's increased, it hasn't been coming to the engineer and so on. But the people want it. They want that road. County roads are used by everyone. I don't care if you come to Austintown, you ride a county road. If you go to Springfield, you go to Berlin, you go to North Jackson, whatever it is, you're going to ride in a county road. And those roads need to be worked. The system brought us together really strong. And all of us agree that we need to help the engineer get funds to do this for the roads. We looked at a number of different issues, but the one that we like the most is the idea of the sales tax. The idea that someone is helping us, the people who use the roads are going to be helping us pay for the roads, even though they don't live in our township. And the agreement that we had was such a great issue that theoretically, if we pass this, in 5 years, all the roads will be paved. But the system is simply this. We understand what people look at. They're not overly excited about any kind of tax. But the fact remains that we're asking you to be able to put it on the ballot, and we will go and talk to them. The engineer promised to, we'll go to all our people and discuss it with them and let them decide. Let them decide whether or not the money is necessary for what we have to do. So we ask you to be able to do that. We thank you so very much for having the open meetings, and we hope it's on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Mr. Orr, Springfield Township.
Thank you, because this is such forward thinking, and that quarter of a penny is not intrusive and not an intrusive tax at all. And it's such a great thing to see everyone working together towards this same goal. It'll have such a tremendous impact for Pat and also the townships and all other infrastructure within the county. But also wanted to say that, just the other day, after we'd met before, GM announced they're going to multiple billions towards electric cars. So there's all that gas tax dollars that would in these newer cars that we wouldn't be getting. So this is real forward thinking on everyone's part here, your part. So I thank you so much.
Thank you, Bob. Jody, Tom, anybody?
I think, just the one thing that I don't know that has really been brought out clear today is the funding that the engineer works from, which is simply the gas tax and the license plate tax. And the gas tax, from what I understand, all goes to Columbus, gets divided among 88 counties. And, we're sitting in a county that has, I'd say, one of the top number of roads in the state. Fifth largest in the state. We get the same money that Trumbull County gets or Columbiana County gets. And then with the license plate tax, we have a shrinking county. So what does that do to license plate tax, but reduce that? So if there was ever a time, ever a need, the time is now. And when you see the cooperation that's been, I wasn't part of the ad hoc, but we had a very good group of people on that ad hoc. And they came up with great solutions, I felt. So this is without a doubt the best. So again, coming from Jackson Township, I appreciate what all three of you have done by listening to us and hopefully getting it on the ballot for us.
Thank you very much. And Pat, how stagnant has your budget been since you've been engineer?
20 years, the budget's been relatively the same. Even with the governor's 10-cent gas tax increase, it came just prior to COVID hitting. So we really haven't even seen the real impact that gas tax would produce. But just for comparison purposes, in 1998, the budget was $10.6 million. In 2019, our budget was $10.8 million. So it really hasn't changed in 20 years. The cost of construction materials has gone up 200% in that period. So just the cost of material alone has made it difficult for us. And I know all of you have heard me say this, whether we're talking like we are now or yelling at each other. If I could have paved the road, I'd have done it twice just to make sure, even if I took 100% of my budget and put it towards paving, we couldn't fix the problem that we walked into 8 years ago. And that's no fault of any of the prior engineers. That's just a result of the budget remaining flat and inflation and everything else increasing. Every year, it seems like we're doing less and less. You know, we've been fortunate the last few years being aggressive going after federal grants. You know, we have Mahoning Avenue being paved right now. Congressman Ryan's office announced the award of the grant in the Jackson Township area of the Mahoning Avenue, Rosemont Road Industrial Corridor. Without grants like that, we couldn't do our job. We couldn't pave South Avenue next year like we're going to do, or Mahoning Avenue this year. They're too massive of a project that would absorb our entire budget. We rely heavily on OPWC for our countywide paving. All of you've seen every year how sparse that paving is because it's based on criteria. It's competitive. So we're competing with our own townships, with our neighbor county to the north, Trumbull County, with Youngstown, with Warren. And it's increasingly more difficult to get roads done. So again, this is up to the people. If they decide they feel we could use it and implement our plan, great. If not, we'll continue to do what we do. But we need to think outside of the box, like Bob had mentioned, forward thinking, and same old doesn't work in today's world. And that's blatantly obvious. You see this all over the place in other departments as well that rely on certain funding sources that have been stagnant or flat or even taken. I know you guys have mentioned the MCO tax has been taken. And how do we operate when we're either losing money or getting the same? You know, money today doesn't spend the same as it did 20 years ago.
Thank you. Carol?
Yeah, and you did say that it is a 5-year tax. It's not continuing. It's 5 years and off. So the people understand that. I think that would be something that most of the people in the townships as well as the cities are going to be.
Yeah, and we work too with everybody to come up with a plan for the 5-year period to show what we could do if this passes. And it's really impressive the amount of work that we can get done. And we had discussed this before at doing like a bulk buy where we combine all of the programs together and do one large bid in an attempt to try to get the cost down and be even more efficient.
What's the cost of a mile of road today? Today's
About
cost?
110,000 a mile roughly.
Wow.
Ken had mentioned 112. Again, it depends too. If you're doing 1 mile of road versus 10 miles at one time, the price is going to fluctuate. You know, you're going to have higher costs if you're doing a smaller project versus a bigger project. But on average, you're a little over 100,000 a mile.
So if you do bulk buy and you work with the townships and you buy together and say you have the townships buying, you have the engineer buying, and you're all working together at that same period, because you know, blacktop. But so you could all buy that at a cheaper rate?
Well, it's not like we're buying asphalt and putting it in our trucks and patching. This would be through a contract where a contractor is paving the roads. So yeah, essentially we would help reduce mobilization costs. So
That would be good.
on the county side, if this passes, we're going to be in every township every year. You tie in the townships, we're cutting that mobilization down
Good.
because they're already going to be there. So
That
yeah,
would cut
it
the
does
cost for the
help,
township.
you know, buying in higher volume.
That's good for the
And so if we're able to
townships.
coincide our paving projects with the county paving projects, then you're volume buying, less mobilization. So it's actually saving. So the money's going to actually go farther because it's going to be more
Right.
cost effective doing big projects rather than individual small
Yeah,
projects
much
when
more
you can afford to
streamlined.
do that. Absolutely.
And then the townships get more roads and the county gets more. That's a perfect way to do that. Thanks, Pat.
What's great in the summation is the fact that the townships are going to benefit from it as well. And, you know, we were hoping, terribly hoping, that this money we received from the federal government, that we would have been able to use it for paving roads. And we're not allowed to use any of that $40 million to pave roads, which is crazy, but that's what the guidelines are. And we're allowed to do sewer and water, but we can't use it for road reconstruction, paving, or none of that. And I know, Pat, you've been receiving calls for years, as we have. When's my road going to get done? There's potholes. And the problem with our roads are, you know, you end up putting overlay. over a road that really should be tore up and redone from the base. And that's a problem because in 2 years, they pop back up. And you can't keep putting blacktop over blacktop over blacktop. It raises up the water levels, the crowns of the roads aren't right. Those are other issues too that people aren't thinking about for the water runoff. Those roads have to be done correctly for we don't have a problem 2 years down the road for you can maintain it. And you don't even have a maintenance
In
program.
order to do that, what we
To do
do,
it.
we're a maintenance department.
But without the funds, it makes it hard.
If we were to re-engineer every road, you're looking at over $1 million a mile to reconstruct. Like you had mentioned, our roads were farm to market roads that grew by attrition back in the 50s and 60s when asphalt started to come into play. So a lot of our roads, the outer 3 or 4 feet have no base. The middle has good structure. But yeah, it's a constant battle. Pardon me.
The 110 just basically
That's
covers
that's a
the
2-inch
pave.
overlay, yeah.
That's
what I'm
a
saying.
basic. It's $1.2 million for.
And if I can say on behalf of
Sure,
the smaller
sure.
townships, the OPWC grant funding really isn't geared towards the rural areas because it is based on criteria such as high volume of traffic, other lines and stuff that we don't have. So we're always either at the bottom of the pile or on the bubble. And with a lot of our revenue streams being lower, there's also match money that's required for a lot of these projects that some of the smaller townships don't really get the opportunity to be able to utilize for that. So the fact that the sales tax would not be under the same criteria as the OPWC fundings, it would give the outer townships a fair advantage to be able to get some paving done that right now we're not obliged to because of the way the OPWC funding is
You know,
geared
you're
towards.
so right, Jody. That was exactly what I was gonna mention because, we have those sparsely traveled roads that Ken knows, you get calls on Webb Road and on different areas that haven't been paved and they go back and say, this hasn't been paved in 37 years.
And they deserve as much
And
attention
they're
as
right.
Mahoning Avenue.
And, and you go down through those roads and you just can't even go a half mile without almost coming to a stop to avoid, just the dips and the crevices in the road. And because of the same reason you're talking, you can't get the OPWC funding and a lot of the communities can't come up with the matching funds. And there's only 350 cars that travel on it a day, and they say it doesn't meet any of the minimum criteria. So this gives those types of roads an opportunity to be paved for the first time in a long time. So it helps a lot of the people that, have been looking for help, because I can't tell you, I'm sure everyone in this room that represents can attest to the same thing, that every day you get somebody call and say, I pay a lot in taxes, and it goes for my roads and I can't get a pothole fixed. Well, none of the taxes we pay locally goes to roads. It's gas tax with a license plate fee it does, but it just doesn't fund the types of projects that need funded. And this type of scenario is a good shot in the arm to get us back to square one and get us, to a point where, everybody gets a fair shake at the road.
It also puts our department back to a maintenance department. We're not a construction company. We have limits, which a lot of people don't understand either. They're called force account limits in the Ohio Revised Code. We can only spend so much money of our own forces to repair a road. And we're not trying to become a construction company. That's not what we do. But if we can get our roads caught up and our crews aren't patching every day, that gives them the opportunity to get out, clearing trees, ditching, repairing signs, sight distance issues, things of that nature, striping, those things that oftentimes get pushed further back because the roads are in disrepair in some instances.
And those are safety issues.
Yeah, I'm a former teacher. And you talk about something that has to be done, and it's the education of all of our voters in Mahoning County. The misconcept of how a road is paved, how the money comes in and so on, especially in the county. It's unbelievable. The state of Ohio, and they're working on it, but by the time they do that, we'll be walking around in ditches. The fact of the matter is that those roads have to be paved. But the idea of sending money on an equal basis to each of the counties stops you from being able, for especially a county like Mahoning that has so many miles of roads, to be able to do those roads. And the problem is that the roads that are used more than others have to be done first all the time. That never gives you the opportunity to get to the people who have to drive on smaller roads. This would help tremendously.
It also reduces the wear and tear on our vehicles too. You know, again, paving's not the only thing we do in the engineer's office. You know, snow and ice is our number one maintenance issue in the winter. And in my opinion, that's our number one job is snow and ice. And driving on a smooth road versus on a bumpy road with a plow truck, anybody that's been in a plow truck knows that not only beats up the equipment, beats up the driver. So this is gonna in turn, if passed, extend the life of our vehicles and our workers as well. And it gets us to a point again where we're doing the maintenance we should be doing because we can focus on that and not so much on patching.
Exactly. Chief Talon.
Good morning. Greg Tyon, Chief of Police from Jackson Township. I just wanted to mention another perspective possibly to kind of just to reiterate some of the things that have already been discussed. You know, the general motoring public a lot of times is able to avoid some of these bad or seriously unkept roadways. Unfortunately, it's the residents that end up having to travel on them and get very discouraged. But also remember that us and the safety forces are required at this point to patrol those areas and to service the individuals that live there and have to take our vehicles down those roadways as well, whether it be the police, the fire, or an ambulance services that is going there. So at this point, we're still having to take our vehicles and trying to respond to these calls. Obviously, because of the condition of some of these roadways, our response times can certainly be very much reduced. So if it's your house that's on fire or your loved one that's having a heart attack or your house that's being broken into, you depend on that life-saving emergency service to be able to get there to provide the services that you need. We also have that difficult time trying to get there. And then we have to incur, just as Engineer Janetti spoke about, you know, we have the additional repairs to our vehicles because of blown out tires and or front end alignments or axles that have ended up being broken or whatever, trying to service those needs. So the other consequence is that, you know, what are we going to do? Avoid those roadways because of all the expenses that we have to go through? But so that's something else to consider. You know, lives matter and time matters in those
Safety
situations.
issue. You're
It's a
right.
safety concern and a safety
Safety
issue.
issues are the big ones.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chief. We appreciate that. Yes, Mr. Connor.
Just want to add a footnote. My granddaughter is an EMT and the ambulances that they ride in have to slow down and they can't do IVs and they can't do the other medical necessary treatments on the way to hospitals. And it doesn't always result in mortality, but it can really complicate the medical situations of people that have to be transported. It's kind of a footnote on this.
Great point. Thank you. Thank you.
That is.
I just want to echo what everybody said. Those are all very important points. We spent a lot of time as the MCTA going over the different avenues we could pursue to do this. And just as it was said that people don't want to pay more taxes and we understand that. But this was the avenue that we saw that could benefit us the most, the engineer's office and us collaboratively to do it this way. And this is why that we are looking to the people to make that decision that they want to support this for our efforts in going forward to doing this. And I just want to say again that we appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Joanne, any comments? Eastgate?
Yeah, doing with these, Joanne Easterline with Eastgate Regional Council of Governments. First, I want to point out the same money Pat gets to pave your roads, he uses for salt and plowing. So there's not a separate pot of money and everybody wants their roads cleared in the wintertime. Also, Pat's in our office all the time. He's very active. He's on our finance committee and he gets all the funding he can from Eastgate federal dollars and OPWC dollars. He uses them very creatively, coming up with different ways to match money. And that all helps, but it's still not enough, especially with people driving less. There's less of a gas tax. I'm hoping our legislators are working on a way to tax the electric vehicles and come up with another way. But I'm all for this tax, but I think we need to educate everybody, like Mr. Carino was saying, because they don't understand how Pat spreads his dollars and everything that it needs to be used for.
Thank you. Carol.
And you know, sales tax is actually the fairest because when you look at purchase, it's not only Mahoning County people that are purchasing in Mahoning County. We have a lot of travelers in and out of our county, a lot of shopping areas to go to in Mahoning County. So I think this is the fairest way. It is a 5-year tax, and that to me would be a selling point so that people understand that we're gonna get this done in 5 years, and you'll see the progress and what we do to make it work. And everybody's working together. As I've said many times with the three of us, it's all teamwork. And to see all of the townships together for one mission shows that this is the first of many good things that come out of this meeting and these meetings with this sales tax. So it's not only going to be about roads, it's going to be about all of you just banding together. It's good to see that. So I applaud you all for that.
I guess one other point would be that 40% of this quarter of a penny is paid by people who don't live in the county. But I'm sure they would enjoy having a better road when they come here to shop or do whatever business they're planning to do. I've talked to a lot of people at the grocery store on South Avenue, which will go unnamed at this time, but they come all the way from Grove City and Slippery Rock to shop there. So we have a lot of people coming into Mahoning County because we've got good businesses, and those are people who are going to help pay this tab too.
Yes. Thank you, Bob. Anyone else? Dave? Good. Okay, well, thank you very much for your input. All right, letter B. Audrey?
No. Commissioners, this is a resolution authorizing the issuance of sewer system improvement revenue bonds, Series 2021, in the maximum principal amount of $22 million for the purpose of paying the cost of improving the county sanitary sewer collections and treatment system and retiring obligations of the county previously issued for such purpose, and authorizing various related documents and instruments, including a second supplement trust indenture, a bond purchase agreement, an official statement, and continuing disclosure agreements. And I'll let Pat again speak on this one.
A lot of those things you said aren't engineering terms, so I'm not going to try to decipher them, but essentially the sanitary department every 5 years goes back to get our bond rating reevaluated, and we borrow money to do some of the major improvements throughout our system. We have a relatively large system compared to some of the other counties. We have 7 major treatment plants, 830 miles of sanitary sewer pipeline in the ground, 85 pump stations. So we have a big system, and it takes a lot of money to operate and maintain that. There's constant improvements. Everything we have is mechanical, and at some point in time is going to fail. So it's important for us to stay on top of these issues and being compliant with our Ohio EPA permits. And we have been fortunate to not have any issues with the EPA, and our relationship with them is stronger now than I've ever seen it, because we're progressive and we're aggressive at going after funding and getting projects done. And this enables us to continue having that good reputation of running a very good system.
Thank you, sir. And letter C, Audrey?
Commissioners, this is a resolution authorizing the lease agreement with Flying High Inc. for space at the Mahoning County Campus of Care, and they'll be servicing the kitchen there and using that as a training place, and also to deal with some food deserts within the city.
Very good. Very important.
And also for Head Start's meals and stuff.
Nice.
Fresh food.
Yes. All right, motion, resolutions A through C.
A motion to approve resolution number 2, A through C.
Second. Roll call.
Commissioner Ditzler?
Yes.
Commissioner Remedial Rigetti?
Yes.
Commissioner Trafficani?
Yes. That concludes our business portion of our meeting. Is there any comments from elected officials or department heads? Care to comment?
I just have one. The Mahoning Avenue paving is going really well. Contractors moving along. They're almost to Raccoon Road. Again, I always urge people to use caution when going through the construction zones. People have a tendency to be impatient. With the contractors through the busiest part of Mahoning Avenue, they've already gotten past Route 11 in between Walmart and Giant Eagle seems to be the busiest section of that corridor in Austintown, and they're well past that now, but we still need people to be cautious, pay attention, stay off the phones. There are a lot of workers on that road, and all of them want to return home to their families. There's too many close calls. We had one of our employees got struck on the back of a tractor mowing grass in Jackson Township a few weeks ago. He's doing well. He's still bumped up a little bit, bruised up, but had he not had his seatbelt on, could have resulted in possibly a fatality. And this is the second employee of mine in the last 3 or 4 years that's been struck by distracted drivers. One was in Austintown Township a few years ago on Mahoning Avenue. This one was on Bailey Road in Jackson. So when you're in these construction zones, please be careful. We have a major widening project going on South Avenue as well. A lot of workers on these jobs. Take your time, be patient. It's a minor inconvenience. And I drive through Mahoning Avenue probably 10 times a day just to make sure things are going well, make sure the zones are set up. If something's off, I'm calling the contractor. And even in the busiest time when they were near Giant Eagle, the delay was really 5 minutes. So be patient. It's an inconvenience while they're doing it, but once they're done and past it, it's a major improvement, and it's definitely needed. And like I said, I think the worst is behind us now, and from this point on, it should be smooth sailing. And I'm predicting if weather's good, they'll probably be completed with the paving next week. Then the project's not complete, but the paving will be. They still have manhole rehab and some other, minor punch list items, but the manhole work will take some time as well, but it won't be the large zones like you see now, but there's still going to be people on the streets, and it is dangerous, yes. So be cautious when you see the barrels and cones, and pay attention to which lanes you're supposed to be in.
Had any updates on South Avenue when they'll start paving that portion that they were working in, where it's real
Yeah, there is some uneven pavement while they're doing. Again, we had the minor sewer repair that they had to work on. I believe paving is, if it hasn't started already, it's going to be starting probably within the next week or so. They got a lot of the concrete work is done. Once that's done, that'll be the next step.
Okay.
So we're getting close to completion on that project as well.
Beautiful. Okay.
A lot of projects.
Anyone else? Dave, Carol, Dave?
No, I just,
Carol?
glad to see everybody working together, and I said that before, and I'm not gonna repeat it again, but it's a good look, I've got to say. And in Mahoning County, we are a team. I have to commend all of the townships, the villages, the cities. We've become a team. We don't always agree, but we could sit down and work it out. That's what's important here. I also want to tell the commissioners that in the editorial portion of the newspaper today, and I've got to say this, I'm going to commend the trip. We were given some accolades to the fact that we are transparent as a group of county commissioners in Mahoning County. And everything that we have on our meetings are very transparent, and that we have everything on video. So I wanna commend our staff and everybody that works for Mahoning County to make that work. That's part of the team that we have here. Next week, we're gonna go on the road and teach other county commissioners how to do that. What do you think, gang?
It's about time.
But I just wanted to say that because I read that before I got in, and I thought, wow, this is really good. It shows people are really paying attention to what we are definitely doing here. So thank you.
Will you be holding a lot of out-of-office meetings this year?
We're going to be doing those as well as some check presentations throughout our visits
Yes.
on the rescue money.
We're gonna start slow.
Yeah.
We tried to, but the problem is too many of you trustees cut down to one meeting a month in the summertime. You need to keep it up there every week, every other week.
For a check, we'll add to more meetings.
I was gonna say, Dave, they'll probably call them with a check. They'll be there in a heartbeat.
I would
Good. Oh,
No, I'm done.
I would just add to what Carol said, you know, we actually had a meeting last week, was it out in Lake Milton?
yeah.
You know, we went out to the Township Hall in Lake Milton and talked to the residents about, you know, sanitary sewer. Pat was there and Ralph Meacham and our group from the county. And, you know, so all of us working together, trying to do sanitary sewer expansions into areas that open up corridors that, you know, trying to look for the future. And as we say on a regular basis that, you know, the money coming into the county has to do something that's going to create opportunity for the next 20, 30 years. You know, we can't be looking at the same problems 20 years from now. We can't be looking at the same areas that you can't build in 20 years from now.
It's also a health and safety issue. And as we saw there, oftentimes like in traffic studies, if there's not a fatality, you can't get an intersection redone. Similarly, on the wastewater side, if there's not enough residents affecting something, it's hard to get funding sometimes. And that's a prime example out there where it's sparsely populated. They need it, but it's a struggle for us. And the department has worked on it longer than any of us four have been around at trying to get funding. That started in '99 when
Jim Trafficant,
with
when I was
Congressman
with Trafficant.
Trafficant. Yeah, so
It's
it's
first $10 million for that project.
it's one of those areas where it took all of us plus residents plus the township, and we still don't have the funding for it, but we continue to work and try to find it. And it's unfortunate sometimes that the criteria is so stringent, but it is what it is. So we have to try to work through that.
Well, and just another prime example of, you know, like Carol alluded to with the transparency, you know, and we always try to make sure that everything we're doing, and I think Audrey has really brought that to the table on our behalf, you know, and, you know, whether it's budget hearings at the beginning of the year, how the funding is spent to carry over, where we have our money, everything's an open checkbook. And the fact that Anthony, we all were part of the first open checkbook in the state of Ohio.
First county to do it, to
And,
implement it.
you know, so really, you know, unless the people trust and believe and understand, you know, where your money goes, you know, there's always that shield, you know, so you have to make sure that there's transparency. And I think that the trustees and the city councils, you know, the local form of government is the closest to the people, you know, and we try to treat as a board of commissioners the same interaction and same open door policy as the trustees do on a regular basis for accessibility. You can find all of our cell phone numbers online, you know, so, you know, we're easy to get a hold of. We try to make sure that we're accessible and do the right thing on behalf of the most. So one other thing I did want to mention is when Pat was saying about watch out for the workers, please, when you're driving today, be cautious, be careful, and watch out for motorcycles. You know, it's so difficult to see motorcycles these days, and so many people, you know, and my wife jokes with me, I've had a couple motorcycles. I got my license in 1980 for my motorcycle, but I've only really put about 10,000 miles on cycles in my whole life. So I wanted to buy a Harley, and I thought, I don't want to spend all that money if I'm going to be afraid to ride, because I haven't ridden in 20 years. So what did I do? I went out and I bought a $1,500 motorcycle 7 years ago just to see if I can still ride and I'm not apprehensive. And she jokes for me to get rid of it because I put 51 miles on it in 7 years. And most of it is going around the block. So I probably have tried to get my $1,500 back out of it, but
Who looks at it every day?
Is this a
and
sales?
one other thing that's in Austin town, most of us know Pat Connolly. Pat Connolly started the 9/11 Memorial. He came to us as when I was a trustee as well with Ken Carano, and they looked for the land after the 9/11 attack. They looked for land, and we donated across from the middle school on Raccoon Road where the 9/11 Memorial is. And Ken, I think it's still one of only 3 in the United States. And there is such a piece of history of all the artifacts that where the disasters and where the attacks were in our country. And Pat Connolly and his family and a lot of people started that. And Pat passed away last week and his funeral was last night, or his calling hours were last night. And, you know, God bless Pat family, Pat Conley and his family for what they've done for not only Austintown, but to remember 9/11 for all those that perished on 9/11, you know, so our condolences to the Conley family.
His obituary was one of the most interesting reads. I mean, what a
see that?
productive man.
Yeah.
What a productive.
And never
man.
asked for nothing, only what he could do to help other people. That's how I always do.
Sat in the back at all the
Great
9/11
citizen.
services, didn't even want to be
Yeah,
acknowledged.
he would never let me acknowledge him when I speak there. He said, no, don't acknowledge me. But I did.
Met his family yesterday and they're all that way.
Yeah.
Very quiet, but he was there every day. He was at 9/11 with the days he shouldn't have been there because he couldn't walk that well. So
Yeah, no, I just want to, you know, commend and agree with my two colleagues here with what's happening. I read that article in the Tribune the other day, and, you know, I too want to commend our department heads and our leaders in the county for working together and not having all the consternation that I've been reading about in a certain political office in Trumbull County. And I just want to thank our department heads for being the way they are, the transparency of this board. Like Carol said, we may not agree on everything, but at the end of the day, we come out united. You win some, you lose some. But I've always said since the day I was elected here, I did not come into this office to hurt anybody. That's not my reason for being here. My reason here is to help people. And I'm very proud of what we've been able to accomplish with the team that we have amassed here in Mahoning County. And Dave, speaking of the motorcycle, I will not say the person's last name, but we all know him. He was with the union for many, many, many years. His name was Bob. Bob was in a very terrible motor accident outside of Columbus 2 weeks ago. And if you'd see his Harley Davidson, it's mangled. And he was in a hospital down in Columbus. Finally got him home. He could not get an ambulance. His collarbone is severed. He already needed a hip operation. He broke both hips.
Oh,
I mean, he's a mess. And I just spoke to him a few weeks ago and we had this conversation. He asked me, why don't I buy a motorcycle? Anthony, you'd like a Harley. I said, that's not for me. I said, Bob, you got to be careful. You got to watch these roads, you know, the potholes, you know, stones
Slag, yeah.
and people driving. And don't you know that happened to him? And if you'd see his motorcycle, I have it in my phone. I don't know how he lived. It's frightening.
his helmet on.
He had his helmet on, had his helmet on. They just brought him back. He's back home here in a facility here by one of our friends. So
My first cousin.
thank God you didn't ride that bike.
My first cousin, my dad's brother's son, Bobby Ditzler, or Billy Ditzler, 3 years ago, he lived in Florida. And there was a young kid who was on his phone, wasn't paying attention, and ran right into the side of him. And they said he died of blunt force trauma. What happened was they ran into the side of him, severed his leg off, and he bled to death before anybody got to him.
Oh,
You know, and he was 64 years old, 65, a little bit older than me, you know. And, but you know what, one of those things when we were talking, I was remiss, we would be remiss if we didn't acknowledge Karen Uhaley. You know, Karen, you know, I know you hate anybody identifying you or putting you out, but Karen and Audrey work so hard on behalf of this township. You know, Karen is our HR director. And when you have 1,700 plus employees and you have 22 unions and you're in charge of the healthcare, you're in charge of every employee's healthcare, and you're in charge of, you know, signing up for healthcare and new hires and postings and all the things it does. And put up with politicians saying, hey, can't we do this? Can't we do that? And Karen, you know, I always tell everybody, you know, whether it's Jeff Urasiva, Pat Giannetti, Karen Uhaley, when they have all those little initials after their name, that means they've been certified. They've got different certifications that mean they know how to do things by the rules. And if we want to circumvent them, we're just being political. So we don't circumvent those types of situations. We may argue to try and prove our point, but normally we lose. And the people with all those initials that have the certifications, they end up, making sure that we do things properly. So I have to thank Karen for all the job that she does, no matter how mad that we get sometimes, and no matter, and Audrey will kind of give us a hard time, but Karen, she'll just shake her head and won't respond to us and say, I'm not even gonna acknowledge those comments.
Or putting up with Dave's jokes, right?
Yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you, commissioners. Thank
Oh,
you.
we appreciate it. We thank the Township Association, all of you coming here and doing your presentation and letting us know. Thank you for all your efforts. Okay. Oh, I was gonna say Nancy, Audrey, our next meeting.
Our next meeting is
4th of July.
Thursday, July 1st at 10 a.m. here in the Commissioners Hearing Room.
All right. Do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Disley,
Yes.
Commissioner Remedy Agati,
Yes.
and Commissioner Trafficant.
Yes, thank you.